Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar with Clever Cow. My name is Emily McFarlane. I'm the Senior Campaign Lead here at Birchal. And just before I introduce Mark and Emily, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we are coming to you from today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. So today I'm joined by Mark and Emily from the Clever Cow team. Birchal here is working on their upcoming crowdsource funding offer. A few of you might be a little bit unfamiliar with what crowdsource funding is or equity crowdfunding. It's a relatively new form of fundraising here in Australia, developed around 2018, and it allowed startups and small businesses to raise capital from the crowd. So often that comes in larger forms of smaller or retail investors, as well as wholesale and sophisticated investors through an online platform such as Birchal. So instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists, companies can turn to their general public, and often that's their communities, to raise money in exchange for equity in their business. Birchal Financial Services will be the licensed intermediary for the offer in question, and I would like to remind everybody that the information and discussion in today's webinar is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest. So if you do have any questions, we really recommend that you do your own research and always consider the offer document and general CSF risk warning before investing. If you do require any more information, please head over to birchal.com, or you can always email us any questions at support@birchal.com. So how today's session is going to run, Mark is going to take us through a great presentation, approximately 15 to 20 minutes long, all about Clever Cow, where they've come from and what they're looking to achieve with their capital raise, and then we'll switch to a Q&A session. So if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a little Q&A bubble, and if you've got any questions during today's webinar, please pop them in the Q&A box as we go along, and we'll answer those at the Q&A time at the end. I'll also let you know that we are recording today's session, so if you do need to jump off early, a recording will be sent around. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Mark.
Thank you, Emily. And thanks to all the listeners that have joined in today to hear about Clever Cow. So before we share the slide, just a little bit about myself. I'm the founder of Clever Cow. I'm also the founder of DIT AgTech. That is the parent company that owns Clever Cow. I've had 40 years in extensive agriculture, my whole working career, but I've been in agriculture and I grew up in the bush as a young guy on cattle and sheep stations. This is my personal fourth crowdfund that I've done. I'm a huge supporter of crowdfunding, but it more aligns with my own thinking about investing. I'm a great believer in the power of the people. I'm a great believer in small actions create big change. And I like the idea of early on letting people participate as investors in Clever Cow, then going out with private equity or venture capital, which one day we will probably do. But right now, we think this is a great way to grow Clever Cow with the everyday Australians who can be part of it. So, Emily, if I could ask you to share the screen, please, we can jump into it.
Yeah. Here we go. Is that working? All good?
Yeah, it's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Here we go.
So, first of all, guys, our mission. Really, our mission is, in a sense, is to harness the power of the people to speed up the adoption of sustainable farming practices across Australia and significantly reduce the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Clever Cow is helping to tackle two of the biggest challenges facing our world: feeding the world and addressing climate change. And we believe farmers hold that key. You see, there is really only a few industries on our planet that can do like what agriculture can. Agriculture has the ability to reduce emissions, but at the same time, agriculture has the ability to remove carbon dioxide. And in the past, we have all been told that agriculture and cattle are bad for the environment. I'm here to tell you today that agriculture and livestock, predominantly ruminant animals, are the solution to climate change. And Clever Cow is the way that we're going to bring about change on the planet and do our bit for climate change. Next slide, please. So why methane? So at the core of DIT and Clever Cow, we have technology where we add methane-reducing additives into the water so that livestock don't burp as much methane. So why is it important to reduce methane? First of all, methane is just a natural part of the methane cycle with ruminant animals. And you've got to remember, evolution has produced cattle and sheep, and it's produced methane. So we don't see it as a problem because it's part of the cycle of the atmosphere. But methane is a very, very powerful tool that we can use to reduce temperatures in the atmosphere or stabilize them. You see, methane is 28 times the warming potential of carbon dioxide. Therefore, the sooner we reduce methane going into the atmosphere, the sooner we can pull this big lever and we can slow down the rate of heating in the atmosphere. So, of course, humanity can just adjust to changes that are coming in climate change. And the beauty of cows and sheep and other ruminant animals is by feeding a methane additive through the water, we can instantaneously cool down the atmosphere at scale. So next slide, please, Emily. The importance of adoption of methane additives has been a challenging problem to solve. You see, myself and my team realised very early on when the debate came about methane is bad in livestock, and we had all these startups that have raised hundreds of millions of dollars to produce these additives to reduce methane. We realised that the problem to solve was not the feed additives to reduce methane. The problem to solve was, one, the delivery mechanism, because you need to understand that only 8% of our ruminant animals are in feedlots and dairies. The other 92% are spread right across pasture-based extensive agriculture. So the big problem we had to solve was, how could we get these additives to these animals in the most remotest parts of our country? But more importantly, how could we monetize this opportunity for our farmers and incentivize them to feed methane additives and produce another revenue stream, as well as reducing methane? There's a lot of farmer skepticism and reluctance are key barriers to the adoption of methane reduction solutions in agriculture. And the key drivers is we have to have a fast, transparent way to get carbon generated straight from the farmers to the consumers. We have to have a way to increase the price of carbon for farmers through fractionalisation, because at the current carbon prices, it's not economically viable for a farmer to do very many sustainable farming practices. And there has to be clear benefits to farmers in addition to reliable revenue streams to speed up adoption. So we've built a platform and we've called it Clever Cow, because we think cows are really clever. And as I said early on, we think cows is one of the solutions to climate change, if not one that's going to do some of the heavy lifting. So we built a platform where a consumer or an everyday Australian can buy a carbon offset subscription that has been produced 100% by sustainable farming practices, and all of our carbon credits have 100% integrity. Now, what we mean by that is that the carbon credits that have been produced through sustainable farming sit under an accreditation scheme, they're under an approved methodology, and they are registered projects, so that all of the people who buy on our platform know that the carbon credits that they are producing and are being retired in their name have been completely verified. So these credits that are retired in our consumers' names, they offset their own unavoidable emissions, they directly support Australian farming projects, and they speed up adoption of emissions reduction solutions. And Clever Cow provides an accessible platform for individuals and businesses to contribute to climate change. So how the platform works. So basically what we do is, at Clever Cow, we buy carbon credits now from a whole range of sustainable farming practices. predominantly from methane reduction, but from soil sequestration, which is where we graze our livestock in a specific way to increase the soil health. And the healthier the soil, the more carbon the soil sequesters. We also buy carbon credits from tree plantations where farmers are planting trees and locking up specific areas of vegetation. And we also buy credits from savanna burning, predominantly from Indigenous communities in Northern Australia who are burning the landscape early after the wet season instead of late in the year when we have very strong fires in Northern Australia. So we burn earlier so we don't have as much carbon going into the planet. So we aggregate all these carbon credits produced through these sustainable farming methods. We have a reliable platform to monetize, and it creates a stable financial ecosystem for carbon reduction incentives. And because we can pay the farmers a higher amount, we then boost more sustainable farming adoption. But for the people wanting change, who want to be part of climate change, Clever Cow allows them to make the carbon market more accessible to them through fractionalisation. It provides a simple way for a consumer or an everyday Aussie to have a positive impact on the environment. And Clever Cow generates demand for authentic carbon credits produced through farming. And at the end of the day, it allows our farmers a continuous revenue stream. So you're probably wondering about the market potential. Now, we've thought about this a lot. We've done a lot of research. Deloitte's have just brought out a paper, and we'll be able to share the link, where they're forecasting that the carbon offset market for consumers to purchase carbon offsets is predicted to grow to $100 billion market in the developed economies by 2030, just over 5 years away. Carbon offsets are becoming increasingly embedded in consumer purchasing decisions everywhere, and the demand is expected to grow as younger people grow their purchasing powers. So there's a lot of data on the willingness to pay, but we are at ground zero, and Clever Cow is at ground zero now to build out a whole large marketplace of subscribers for these credits. The consumer's willingness to pay is capitalised on the predicted trends. We're targeting that younger audience. Demand for carbon offsets predicted to grow as the younger people gain more purchasing power. Clever Cow simplifies a very complicated space. You know, transparency is key to increasing consumer adoption of carbon offsets. Consumers are wanting to know that if they're going to subscribe to these sort of platforms like Clever Cow, that we have the best integrity of our carbon credits, and they're coming from verified sources and under verified projects. So we're connecting the consumers directly to the producers. Clever Cow connects consumers to climate change mitigation projects for more meaningful to their daily routine. Right now, we have a couple of subscription packages with the ability to really grow these subscription packages as we fund Clever Cow and move forward. The market potential. As I said, we're not the first to do this. There's only a few in the world that are doing it now. The most significant ones I'll talk about here now. So Climeworks. Climeworks is direct air capture. It's a multi-billion-dollar startup in Norway. They've raised over $1 billion, and they actually suck air in from the atmosphere, extract the carbon, drill a hole in the ground, and compress the carbon. Their revenue stream is by selling individual subscriptions to drive this rate of adoption of this type of climate technology. They sell their carbon credits to consumers that are fractionalised for $1,200 a tonne. In Australia right now, we get $30 a tonne. The other one is Climate Heroes. over 1 million users to date there. And their model is around about 20 to 30 US dollars per month. So about $200 or $300 a tonne to buy. And then Cool Effect is another carbon offset platform that allows the user to make a one-off or monthly donation. So Clever Cow will sit within this sphere of these businesses. So we'll talk a little bit about the revenue model in Clever Cow. The first revenue model we're focusing on when we raise money for Clever Cow and start to scale it will be our subscription-based revenue, either monthly or annual subscriptions. We're primarily focused on business to the consumer. We're also bringing out a one-time fee revenue opportunity where an individual can buy a purchase or a gift, and they can buy whatever they want, whether it's 10 kilos, 100 kilos, 375 kilos. It'll be a one-off transaction that they can share this gift with friends and family. And then the last opportunity for our revenues is around wholesale and commercial, which I'm quite excited about. This is where we will allow businesses to have access to verified high-quality carbon credits to offset their business greenhouse gas footprint. Our plan is to build a portfolio of carbon-neutral brands that leverage the Clever Cow mark of authenticity. And this will allow us to develop new sustainable revenue streams through our unique Clever Cow carbon fractionalisation model. So the profit comes from fractionalisation of the carbon credits after acquisition. We have multiple access options to the platform. Subscription, one-time commercial. Ensures earnings, diversification and optimization. And if we just talk very quickly about what we're about to release in the wholesale or commercial area, we have a number of coffee shops that are about to buy carbon credits off us, so they've got a 12-month supply or a month supply of carbon credits produced by Clever Cow that they will purchase so that they can offset the emissions of a cup of coffee. And the unit economics around this are really fascinating. I find it fascinating because one cup of coffee has 90 grams of CO2 emissions as a footprint. When they buy our credits off us for around $200 a tonne, it means the cost of that cup of coffee will go up somewhere between 7 cents and 10 cents per cup of coffee. Now, I don't know about anyone else listening here, but I just buy a cup of coffee. But to be able to go into a shop where there is a cup or branding on the front of the coffee shop to know that when I buy their coffee, it's carbon neutral under the Clever Cow platform, we think that's a very powerful message that these businesses can send to the rest of society. Thanks, Emily. So we have a multi go-to-market channel approach for Clever Cow. So as I spoke before, the Clever Cow model enables multiple partnership models and pathways to the market, including direct to the consumer through a subscription so they can offset their own emissions and do their bit for climate. Small to medium-sized businesses and enterprises, I said, very excited I am about the coffee shops, the baker shops, all of those sort of things. It's not a big spend for the consumer to interact with these businesses. But more high level of the commercial partnerships. You see, one of the struggles that retail has had to date is when they develop these carbon neutral brands, they haven't embraced fractionalisation. Because in my mind, it doesn't matter where the carbon projects are created. What's important is that we reduce carbon, we produce a credit, and we retire it immediately. So we see opportunities with the Clever Cow brand as we build a community through our subscription and as we build a community of small to medium enterprises to then participate with big food brands where they could sell their own products. For example, meat goods, where they purchase, say, 5 grams of CO2 credits that have been fractionalised from Clever Cow with the Clever Cow brand of authenticity on meat brands, milk. We think that there's lots of opportunities there, but our first focus in Clever Cow is consumers and small to medium-sized enterprises. So the use of funds. The most important thing the use of funds will be used for is to invest in our marketing to expand our platform's reach. Because at the end of the day, Clever Cow is a consumer brand, and we need to build that audience ASAP. It'll also help us to create a commercially viable ecosystem that incentivizes and rewards environmental stewardship. And the funds we raise will actually help us to refine and scale our platform to support more users and features. So your investment in Clever Cow is not just about profits. It's about driving a positive change in agriculture and environment. And as a leader of Clever Cow, I am very driven to build a purpose-led business. But I've also been around long enough that you need to be profitable, because the businesses that are profitable allows us to be purposeful. So our focus is on becoming profitable as soon as we can and growing the audience as soon as we can, so that longer term Clever Cow can do its part for climate change and do something purposeful and useful on the planet for future generations. So thank you, everyone. And I'm more than happy to take as many questions as you have. Over to you, Emily.
I think you mean Emily 2.0 here. This has been a very confusing time having two Emilys here, but I'm glad to have you guys on board. All right, we've already got a couple of questions coming through. So first question is, how scalable is Clever Cow, and is there a plan to take the model as an internal creation and sale of carbon credits generated from DIT supplementary feeding onto more markets?
Without a doubt. Emily, it's a great question. And just the corporate structure of Clever Cow is it's wholly owned by DIT. And we built Clever Cow as a separate entity so that we could invite more investors from the crowd. But you're correct. DIT will produce carbon credits that will be sold through the Clever Cow platform. And how scalable is it? Well, I'll give you the very high level unit economics. Right now, a farmer who'll do a carbon project will probably only get $30 or $40 a tonne for CO2. Our model is to incentivize those farmers and pay them between $80 and $100 a tonne. We will then sell those credits for between $250 to $300 a tonne, which is in line with other fractionalized consumer-based businesses like Climeworks that I showed you in the presentation. So there's very good margin in the business, and it's very scalable because 1 million subscribers is 300 million in revenue, and there's very good profit margin. So yes, it's a very scalable business. But more importantly, what we need to do is we need to pay our farmers a very, very good price so it becomes economically viable, so that we can enable more farmers to participate in sustainable farming. Of course, the more farmers participate means we can have more impact.
Thanks, Mark. So is Clever Cow generating these ACCUs or purchasing them from other landholders or proponents?
No, so we are buying the credits from other landholders and proponents. DIT AgTech is starting to produce carbon credits under the VIRA methodology, VM41, and we are going out into the marketplace and buying other carbon credits. So we buy carbon credits from all types of farmers now through ACCUs, and also we've got the opportunity to buy carbon credits from other overseas markets as well, as long as they're under an approved methodology and under an approved and verified accreditation scheme.
Thank you. Will the brand name restrict using non-bovine products, so maybe pork or chicken products instead?
It's great. It's a great question, that. And I will say that we've had a lot of debates about this internally. We went with Clever Cow because when everyone thinks about agriculture, the first thing they think about are cows. Cows are the problem. So we felt that we needed to build a fun, young brand that was enjoyment and everything. And that's why we've gone with Clever Cow. But no, we don't see it having any issues around that.
Good to know. What verification methods will you use?
So right now, our methane credits are being produced under the VM41 method, which is a VIRA standard, and VIRA is out of the US. So we feed a product called Agilin, which is an approved feed additive method. Some of the other projects we'll be looking at is soil sequestration projects under the Clean Energy Regulator, forestry projects, and as I said, savanna burning projects. Right now, they're the ones we're focusing at now. Look, there's talks in the climate market of a whole other range of projects that are coming into agriculture. For example, environmental projects. I think that once environmental projects get going, biodiversity projects, we would participate in buying those types of credits and selling them to our customers as well, as long as they all come from farming. That's the whole idea.
So you mentioned before that DIT AgTech has come through equity crowdfunding previously. What percentage of Clever Cow will DIT AgTech own going forward? Is it the whole company?
Right now, it's our whole company, but we'll be selling down around about 20 to 30% of Clever Cow to the crowd.
Great. Thank you so much. And coming from DIT AgTech, what inspired you to create Clever Cow as a subsidiary?
Well, the first thing is that I was inspired that we needed to create an economic model to empower farmers to do more sustainable farming practices. And because I know agriculture so well, and I also know that wherever farmers sit on the fence around climate change, there's one language that we all know, and that's dollars and cents. And that until that we could create an economic model. So Clever Cow was our whole idea to create a new economic model for farmers. And we decided to spin it off into another entity, as I said from day one, because we felt that this is a great business for the crowd to invest in. And, we could have gone to venture capitalists. I could have pitched this to venture capitalists or private equities, but I haven't, because as I said, I'm a great believer in crowdfunding. I'm a great believer in everyday Aussies participating in growth companies from early on.
So how big is your team currently at Clever Cow versus DIT AgTech?
So right now, the Clever Cow team is all run by DIT. So there's about 55 people in DIT now. So at Clever Cow right now, our marketing team sits between the two. But as we get some funding, we intend to sort of put some people on in Clever Cow, specifically business development people who can start engaging with coffee shops and bakeries. Until Clever Cow gets its own size, we'll start to build a marketing team there. But right now, DIT has been doing all the heavy lifting in there at the moment.
Great to know. But how will you navigate in settling into the supply chain about taking credits?
Just say that question again, Emily, just so I get that right.
No problem. It's a little bit strangely worded, but hopefully we're going to be able to interpret this well. So how will you navigate in settling into the supply chain taking credits?
Good question. As I said, it's not part of our early strategy yet. But when we talk about the supply chain, there's two different types of thoughts with supply chains. And I'll probably sum this up the way, because, I work on mental models. And so if you look at the carbon market, the difference between the US and Australia. In the US, the government puts a big carrot out the front, or a pot of money, and they incentivize the inventors, the innovators, the entrepreneurs to work out ways to navigate through. In Australia, we're slightly different. We're more the big stick. So right now we have legislators that are trying to work out where to put these carbon credits in the supply chain. The problem with that model is this: the farmer can't have the cost of doing these things because they can't afford it. We all know how hard farming is. The transport operators have got thin margins. They can't afford it. The supermarkets are not going to pay for it. The meat processors are not going to pay for it. And at the end of the day, not all the consumers are going to pay for it too. So it's very complex. Clever Cow's whole strategy is to build a brand through with our audience first and subscribers, and focus on those little easy ones like coffee shops and bakeries and those sort of things.
Makes a whole heap of sense. So with that annual fee, will it be the same every year, or will it change with the market cost per tonne?
That's a really good question. I'd say it will change. There'll be an arbitrary opportunity in the price difference between what we'll buy credits for and what we'll sell them. But if the predictions are right, where they say the carbon price is going to go to $300 a tonne by 2050, yes, I would say that they would go up. The whole idea of Clever Cow is we need to pay our farmers a good price. And if it makes economic sense to a farmer, more farmers will participate, therefore will produce more impact. The other interesting thing about the opportunity of everyday Australians controlling the price of carbon is the sooner the price of carbon goes up, we can then put the pressure back on those big emitters that are just greenwashing and buying carbon credits at $10 a tonne from the Amazon and those places. You know, we have lots and lots of big businesses in Australia that are doing great things on reducing their emission footprint. But there's still a lot of businesses that are not actually changing their behaviour. Clever Cow is an opportunity for all of us to make sure the price of carbon goes up so that those big emitters actually change their behaviour.
Brilliant. So what are your subscriber targets within the first 6 to 12 months?
So we have an aim that within 24 to 36 months to be at 100,000 subscribers. I think that's very achievable, depending on the level of funding we get. We would be extremely happy to have 10,000 subscribers on the platform within 6 months. We'd be extremely happy with that. But our whole, again, these short-term goals, I think what's important is you can get clouded with short-term goals. You know, I'm a real long-term goal-thinking sort of person. So, as I said, our plan is 100,000 subscribers in the next 24 to 36 months, sort of 25, 30 million of revenue. And then hopefully in the next 10 or 20 years, we could have 1 million subscribers or a couple of million subscribers.
Thank you. How can a farmer get on board?
Really easy. So what we have in the DIT business, we have lots of customers, 150 customers or something, a couple of 100,000 head of cattle that sit on our platform. We could get so many more farmers to participate in this, but we don't have the funds to be able to help these farmers now, because we need to build a market for these credits. So there are no problems with farmers feeding methane additives to reduce their emissions, but we need to produce the demand at the front. I think right now that if we had the demand from subscribers in Clever Cow, we could easily put 50,000 head of cattle on our platform. And to put that in context, you know, that's somewhere between, with feeding Agilon, which is around about 10 to 15,000 tonnes of CO2 credits we could produce just by those amount of cattle.
Brilliant. So there's a question on how investors will get a return on the company. That's probably something that I can help you out with. So there's numerous ways that investors can potentially get a return on their investment through equity crowdfunding and through investments of this type. I will explain the way that the shares work as well. So when buying shares in a crowdsourced funding offer, you are buying fully paid ordinary shares in either a publicly unlisted company or a privately listed company. So that means that the shares aren't able to be sold on a stock exchange, such as the ASX, for example. So they are what's considered illiquid. So the way that you can potentially get a return on your investment down the track is through a share buyback scheme that the company might arrange in the future. There might be an exit opportunity where that company might be purchased by another company. They might enter into an IPO where you will be able to sell your shares in that way. There's numerous opportunities down the track, but I would encourage you to do your own research in this level of shares, and then also understand that this is what's considered a medium to long-term investment as well. So I had another question for you, Mark, as well. What markets are you looking to expand into in the future? Obviously, you'll be starting out with an Australian market. Is there the potential to go international and beyond?
Without a doubt, Emily, like Europe would be a very attractive market. You know, the consumers are very environmentally conscious in Europe. And of course, I think there's certain demographics in the US as well. But right now, we look at what we want to do in the shorter term. We want to get into these metropolitan markets where there's a younger generation that are very environmentally conscious. In saying that, a lot of the research that we've done, there's people who are environmentally conscious from all different age brackets. So we don't want to sort of pigeonhole a younger generation.
Great to hear. And do you expect to have any issues around IP or defensibility of your product?
An IPO or IP?
Your intellectual property.
Yeah. We have trademarks on Clever Cow now. Clever Cow is not patented. Within the DIT business, some of the science there has patents on it. But in regards to Clever Cow, I got to say, like, patents are important, guys. But as a leader, I'm more of a leader that patents are for the weak. The best way to protect your business is to be so fantastic with your customers and bring so much value to your customers. So yes, there'll be more competitors in this space, but you've got to remember at Clever Cow, DIT has these really deep industry roots in agriculture. So there's a lot of synergies between the businesses. So as much as Clever Cow is our consumer-facing business that's providing environmental offset credits for consumers that are verified under the best methodologies with integrity, we have these deep industry roots with farmers where we can pull the supply demand through of sustainable farming.
That's great to know. So what data from your customers are you collecting, and how do you intend on keeping this secure?
So we have a full software team, about a dozen people in DIT now. We've got all the best-in-class cyber security protocols now. We've built the Clever Cow platform already at that best-in-class for protection of their details and all of those sort of things. I think with more investment and as we get more people on the platform, we continually need to invest in that. So it's very important.
Great to hear. Are there any government regulations that you think will have a positive or negative impact in your company in the upcoming years or months?
As I said earlier on, I think we're going to find more pressure on agriculture to be seen to be doing the right thing. But the most difficult thing about getting the whip out from the government and legislating farmers is it doesn't make economic sense to do sustainable farming yet. And this is why Clever Cow is so important. So yes, I think there's more legislations coming. I think farmers need to be on the front foot just as much as consumers need to be on the front foot. Really, at the end of the day, to make a difference in climate change is all about the people, not about government. It's not about big corporations. There are people that think it's about corporations and governments doing it. I don't believe that. If we want positive change, we must do it together. And this is where Clever Cow is an opportunity for all of us to participate.
Thank you. And what will be the minimum investment from an individual in your offer?
So we're going to set it at $250. That'll be the minimum.
Great. Are you looking at any other additives or just, I think I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, Agolin?
Agolin, yeah. So,
Agolin?
I know a lot about the additives, guys, and I'm happy to give you the very quick science on it. So right now we use a product called Agolin at DIT for only one reason. It's the only product that's approved to create a carbon credit, and it's the only product that's got all the science and peer review that reduces methane. There are a range of products. Everyone would have heard about the seaweed products. Seaweed's a great product, it reduces methane by up to 90%. The problem with seaweeds is you have to feed 200 mils a day. With Agolin, you feed 0.6 of a mil. Remember, logistics, is very big in extensive agriculture. We have products that are coming out now that are synthetic, predominantly using bromoform. As a leader of DIT and Clever Cow, I have some fundamental problems with using bromoform because the science tells myself and my team that it's very carcinogenic. So I think there's going to be issues in that. There's another product out there now called 3-Nop. It comes out of Europe from a company called DSM. I think they're going to win the race because they're very small doses, only 1 ml a day. They've got large emissions knockdown of above 50%, whereas Aglin's only 10%. So right now, there are quite a few products on the market. My own personal opinion, I think 3-Nop and Aglin are going to be the leaders there right now. Seaweed's going to be very hard to scale for the logistics.
Great. Have you engaged with retailers to judge their interest?
Oh, we have. We have actually had a couple of meetings already with the 2 largest supermarkets. I'm sure everyone can think about who they are at a very senior level. Fractionalisation is very new to supermarkets. And I think that right now for us at Clever Cow and also DIT, we need to build demand through subscribers. That's the important thing to get noticed by the big retailers. But yes, we've also spoken to some milk companies. We've spoken to some food subscription businesses, but it's very early days. But if we can build out 10,000 subscribers, 50,000 subscribers, and we can get 100 coffee shops and 50 bakers online, and our brand is out there through a great crowdfund and investing in our marketing, we will get noticed by those big retailers without a doubt.
Why is this not a necessity in cow feed already to reduce emissions? How come this is such a new technology, and why isn't it mandatory?
Well, it's not legislated because our government hasn't legislated it yet, and they are trying to do that in Europe at the moment, and there's huge pushbacks from farmers. And I'm not saying, I'm the biggest supporter of farmers, and I will say this, Ed. I know a lot of farmers, and they're the greatest environmentalists that I've ever met. The issue why we've got pushback from farmers is it makes no economic sense to spend $100 a head to feed them, or $200 a head if you're feeding seaweeds, to get a $30 carbon credit. Like, farming is small margins. But what we forget is it's so important for farming because we need food. So it's this balancing act between sustainable practices, producing food. So it's not legislated in Australia yet. There's lots of farmers who I know that would feed methane reducing additives tomorrow if it made economic sense.
Is it something then that could be subsidised by the government?
Without a doubt, yeah. And I think lobbying that is something that we could do as a business. Again, guys, I'm a big believer in the power of the people. We could go to governments all day long, all those things. The best way to bring about change is unity in the people, and all of us getting behind a business like Clever Cow and getting 1 million subscribers out. That'll send a very strong message to industry and government how invested we are as a society in climate change.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's really interesting to think about how much as a whole, and having shareholders on board and subscribers to the platform could actually create such a huge change within Australia if you were to have that collective voice.
Yeah, I think it's like all these things, Emily, like change comes about, from inventors, innovators and entrepreneurs, and it's always driven by the people. So it's ground zero for Clever Cow. And as a leader, I'm extremely passionate and excited what we could achieve with investment and with, heaps of subscribers.
No doubt. So the yearly fee, do you have a yearly fee at the moment of $250? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, $250.
And is that equal to 1 tonne, or how many kilograms would that be equal to?
1 tonne.
Perfect. Good to know.
And I'll just answer a question that I think is going to come to me any minute now. Why would a consumer pay $250 for a tonne of CO2 when they could go and buy it? Theoretically, they could go and buy it if they had their own annual account, and they could buy a tonne of carbon credits for $50. Well, the way I'll answer that is, why do consumers buy $250 Nike shoes? Why don't they buy $30 Chinese running shoes? It's all about building brands. It's about building brands that people trust, and we're happy to pay for those things when we become invested in brands. We want to build a brand in Clever Cow. That's
great to know. So what are some of your proudest moments to date as a business?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. Emily, probably my proudest moments of business, not just in Clever Cow and DIT, probably my proudest moments have been when I failed and I've had to pull myself up. You know, I'm actually 57 on Saturdays, guys. So I feel very young and I've got a lot of living to do. And my proudest moments for myself have been when I've faced adversity and I've had to navigate my way through it and find the grit inside to get back up. And business is like that. But I'm really proud of what I'm doing at DIT and Clever Cow because I feel like I'm doing something useful. You know, I'm pretty, don't get me wrong. I have days when I go to work and it's really tough, Emily, but I'm just so happy and proud that I can lead a business like Clever Cow and DIT. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's really exciting as well, even from Birchal's perspective, to see sustainability brands coming through. And I always, and one of those questions before was actually just from me. And, you know, I find that really interesting that there is a solution that's so close that it's at our fingertips that we could be reducing methane emissions so easily if the government were to be subsidizing or to be providing a product like this to farmers, but they choose to invest funds into other channels. And it's, yeah, pretty crazy to me that that's the case.
I think things are changing, but Emily, you know, society, we're all starting to realise how important it is to look after the planet and look after our food supply. You know, agriculture, as I said from day one, is such an important industry. We need to protect it, but it can do some of the heavy lifting around sustainability and helping the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Clever Cow, where are you guys based, and can investors or subscribers visit a bricks and mortar office?
They can indeed, yes. So Clever Cow operates under the DIT banner currently until we sort of grow Clever Cow right up now. But more than happy for anyone to come and meet me. I'm in Toowoomba, is our head office there. But we have our dosing technology all across Australia. We have our manufacturing in Townsville. And it's not the first time that we've had investors that come and meet me and I take them around. So if anyone would like to come and catch up and see the bricks and mortar, I'd love to show you around. I'm very proud of what the team has built.
Amazing. Can this feed go to sheep as well? And if so, do you see a potential for wool in any way?
Yeah, for sure. So I think methane comes from ruminant animals. So ruminant animals are livestock predominantly. Examples of ruminant animals are cows, sheep, camels, and buffaloes. And a lot of people wouldn't know that even kangaroos emit methane. You know, like there's quite a few different animals, wildebeest, all those sort of things, but predominantly it's from livestock, sheep and cattle. You know, buffalo emit methane. There's 400 million buffaloes in India alone. So there's a big market opportunity to reduce methane. If you think about it, in Africa and developing countries, someone to be able to feed a methane additive, reduce the methane and get a carbon credit purchased by someone in Europe or New York. Like, you know, what a wonderful business that would be if we were giving revenue to developing countries and we're using livestock. But yeah, that's a mission of mine one day to see that happen.
Incredible. So carbon credits obviously are offered by airlines in certain schemes. What gives you hope that Clever Cow will be better received by the public than this scheme?
This is an interesting question, Emily, because I only just met with someone 2 weeks ago who works for Qantas and buys all the carbon credits for the offset. Now, we all have this interesting thing that no one clicks the button. Of all the airlines in the world, Qantas has the highest uptake. And I remember it was above 10%. So 1 in 10 people click the little button there. So Qantas actually buys carbon credits from all around the world to offset the airline's emissions. But the data that they told us was the main reason why people offset on a Qantas flight is not because they want to offset their emissions, because a lot of the credits that Qantas buys are from indigenous savanna burning practices. So those consumers see the importance of not subsidising, but supporting a sustainable method like that. And that's why I feel very optimistic that the consumers will get behind farmers. I'm grateful. Everyone loves farmers in the city. I know farmers don't think that, but I do know how much support they've got. So I'm very optimistic about consumers buying credits through Clever Cow.
That's brilliant. Just a few comments, not even questions, but the Spotted Cow in Toowoomba was one of the greatest pubs in the entire country, and it's great to see that Clever Cow is based there as well.
I've had a few too many rum and cokes at that pub too, Emily, for that particular person, if they want to know.
I love it. And we've also had another comment that people are very happy to support your brand as well.
That's great. Thank you very much.
I think we've gone through all of the questions today, but I popped in the chat box the profile for Clever Cow. So if you haven't expressed your interest, please go ahead to their page where you can express your interest so that you can be kept up to date with any updates that are going on, as well as be the first to know when the offer does go live so that you can invest in Clever Cow. There's also a message button on the page. So if you do want to reach out to Mark and the team, you're welcome to reach out to them. The offer is looking to go live, Mick, in a couple of weeks' time. But if you do express your interest, you will be alerted as to when that offer will be going live specifically. And if you do have any questions around investing at all, if you're confused about anything that we went through today, please reach out to support@birchal.com and we'd be happy to help. And if you did miss anything, we will be sending around a recording later as well. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has come along today and for all your fantastic questions, and a big thank you to Mark and Emily from Clever Cow. It's brilliant to have you on Birchal, and we're really looking forward to what you achieve.
Thank you, Emily. And thanks to everyone that's expressed their interest. And, you know, it's really easy to find my phone number on the internet. If anyone wants to ring me, ask any questions, I live beside my phone. I'd even love to talk to anyone about Clever Cow at 2 a.m. in the morning. So pick up the phone and give me a ring if you've got any questions.
Oh, God bless you. Thanks so much, team. I'll chat with you soon.
See you guys.